I'm a person. I do things. Hi.
We're already rolling.
Oh shit, we're already rolling. Oh damn.
Yeah.
Well then.
We did the Norm Macdonald thing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the One Up Podcast. My name is always Milos Bukarica. My co-host right here is George Martinez. With us today, one amazing man who's done a ton of stuff. I don't even know what the hell to call him because he does everything under the sun. Mr. Forrest Dean. All right, how would you introduce yourself first off? What would you say you are?
Student of life. That's the best compliment I think I've ever received from anybody. I guess in short, I met you in like 2017 at the Country Network.
Yes, sir.
With Don Mills. That's
Actually,
right.
no, it was earlier than that. It was like 2015, 16 maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I was still full-time at
CBS.
Alfred Media Services.
No. Yeah.
2014 and 15. My math is probably not. Go check my Wikipedia page. I can't remember.
I don't remember. If it was
2016,
right. No, it must have been like it was like end of 2016 because that's when I finished TCC. That was where I was at.
Okay. I don't have a Wikipedia page either. I was totally kidding. But all your numerous fans, not to insult you, but they'll make it. So,
well, I'll make it.
Right.
I'll make it. Tonight.
That's right. That's awesome. But so my father was an anchor and radio DJ host growing up. So I kind of always enjoyed the limelight and entertainment in general. Kind of always knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't really take it seriously until about 26 or so. So everything was kind of just happening by happenstance. And then, you start seeing people that actually hustle, and for better or worse, that's kept me busy. So it allots you the ability to pick multiple avenues. So I have a good history in broadcast, corporate, concert, and narrative work in the past year or two. So
hell yeah, man. Yeah, I've been seeing you doing a whole bunch of different stuff. I know where I met you. You were mostly just doing, as far as I know, you were just mostly doing like camera work for studios, stuff like that. But yeah, seeing you branch out is super cool. Yeah. I saw you recently just directed your first music video. Was that your first music video?
It was. Yeah,
man. That was fucking great.
Oh, it's exciting. And now just the clock is ticking on the next one, just because this first one was all performative. I've always been quite a metalhead. And I like a really aggressive music, pretty terrible, for most people at least. And so I knew I wanted like something aggressive and just kind of helped you, if you're not much of a fan, at least if you can bob your head once or twice to a couple of the cuts or something, I got what I wanted. But this next one will have a little bit more of a narrative feature to it, an actor, and try to get across some kind of idea. But that's the most I can tease because that's the most I have. No, there's a little bit more.
On that last music video, is that the one you worked on with Jorg?
Yeah. He was the director of photography on that. And, dude, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that guy. So
no, he's a big metal fan, too.
Oh, yeah. He's just well-cultured. It's incredible. I'm constantly trying to catch him off guard with things I know. But the dude is something else, so... I love that guy. And, because of him, I was able to stay busy throughout the pandemic because, he found people that were still willing to pay for shoots. And we were very safe and accommodating to everybody's wishes and wills. But we stayed busy, It was a lot of, I call it, guerrilla filmmaking. But you could get away with a lot, too. A lot of empty cities and such, so... We definitely shot a lot of stuff. So.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that guy is crazy. Yeah, we had him on a podcast before. Pretty interesting. I remember one of the shoots. I was doing something for another. Actually, it was right before I graduated UTA. I did a news story on one of his shoots, which is kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
He was out in Corsicana. Literally, fucking just got a park for another one of his shoots beforehand. They had literally had to shut down some streets for him too. I was like, bro, that's some crazy stuff. So Speaking of Jorg, how'd you meet him?
That's a good question because it goes back. I don't remember Noel's last name. Noel, so, I kind of got in the habit of going out of my comfort zone to coffee meet and greets, wherever anyone would have me to just talk and meet people. And so I went to a coffee meet and greet at Abernathy Media Professionals, which I also try to kind of remember where I came from in each of these branches of my tree. And, that was definitely a joke. Neither of y'all laughed. But it's okay.
Sorry.
The camera op didn't even the owner of the place. It's okay.
He's asleep.
Yeah, I got a lot of sappy jokes, right? Over time with your name, you kind of come up with some jokes. So I've been lucky to meet a number of DPs, and I had a DP introduce me to Abernathy, and I did some jobs with them. They hosted a coffee meet and greet, went there, and this one guy just kept talking to me. I was like, this is good. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go there to meet people, but I should probably like ditch you and go talk to some other people. I remember thinking that at the time, like, man, you're like cornering me. And there's like all these other people who flew in. And turns out he was the most like legit and had gigs really, because within like a month he got me my highest paying gig on a professional like white psych grip. Actually, I'm sorry, it was cam op, but I do both so often, I guess. And that was really awesome. And then he asked me to go do like a 48-hour film festival, and we go do this thing, and the DP there just had. I remember Jorg pulling up next to me in my truck in his van. I'm just like, how did you get all this stuff? Like, this is incredible. I was so awestricken that I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way this guy's going to want to be my friend. And like, he's on a different level. I've been pretty hard on myself throughout my life, but I just played my cards, and by the end of the day, got to know him as best I could. And months had passed, many months, and one day I got drunk and missed a flight. Yeah, and I'm sitting there beating myself up. I'm like, God, I missed a flight. The pilot said go take an hour. It turned out to be 15 minutes, and they started loading the plane. Shoot. And I wrote out this message to Jorg, and I was like, hey, man, it was really great working with you. If you ever have anything, please. And he said, you know what? I got this movie, this feature out in Austin. It's 2 weeks long. It's not paid, but I didn't have a lot of work at the time. I was like, all right, well, I asked, and here it is. And so I kept that part of my schedule clear, and as weeks kept coming closer, I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, going out to Austin for 2 weeks with tons of strangers I've never met. I can't believe this. Before the pandemic, and just right before. It was at I think December 2019, so I guess the pandemic had started for some people, but not us. Yeah. And so I remember getting in my truck and driving down to Austin for the first time. Only have ever been driving through, and just having like a panic attack. Like, what the hell? I don't know this guy, really. I don't know any of these people. And I went, and immediately it was amazing. And I hadn't had a lot of film narrative experience or much gripping in general, just small gripping gigs. But he had like combo mambo stands and real like, doorway dolly stuff, and real cinema cameras and lenses and first AC. And I was like, what in the world is going on? He took me under his wing, man. And I spent 2 weeks out there, just a motley crew of buddies, just all of us so different. And by the end of it, we're still friends to this day, talk every day. The whole crew, we're still in a group chat, and we still talk. And he kept me busy. Like, I've worked on a lot of shoots with that guy now. And the surrounding crew, it's a pretty tight-knit group of buddies, and they shoot a real particular style, but Jorg is so capable, and the whole crew, that every once in a while we'll jump over lanes completely to a different type of movie, different type of shoot, music video, whatever. And it's just like, you just have to like sit back and like, how the heck could someone, a few years younger than me be so much more experienced? But I'm humbled by it. I'm 30 years old, and there's like 18-year-olds out there that I'm just like really focused and listening very close to. So, and the one I'm thinking of is 20 years old, Cruz Staminitz, who's an amazing DP as well. But so yeah, that's really how I met him, and I'm really grateful for it, because it complemented all the other stuff I was doing broadcast wise and corporate side, because then I started learning the lingo of you'd learn so much on indie shoots, because you can't be an asshole. You have to be in it. You don't, when 10 hours is up, you don't start like talking about overtime necessarily all the time. And sometimes they bring in lunch, whatever. It's guerrilla filmmaking a lot of the time in Texas. So that's really kind of like, it really helped me. I started editing a lot more since then. When you met me, I really hadn't edited at all. And I thought I was shooting for the edit, because I'd been shooting since like 2009 with Billy Bob's Texas and CBS 11. Yeah. So I think I'm still technically employed with CBS 11, but I have like 11 years with them. all things considered, I kind of branched out and started doing other stuff that pays more of a day rate. With CBS 11, I was always part-time, but I loved it so much because my father was an anchor there. So it's just this like bond I have with the place every time I go in there. But yeah, it all kind of like made me pretty well-rounded. Also, you run into people who are like, hey man, pick one thing.
What were the kind of things you would do for CBS?
So I was cam op and audio. So in studio cam op, the news department actually has the photogs, and those are the guys who actually go and get the stories. And I was in studio cam op, started, and then I ended up doing a lot of audio there too. But
Does CBS still have like camera operators in the studio?
It's pretty wild. I don't know if this is correct, but I think they're one of the last. Like they've held on to keeping these ops. It's
because I heard there's like other news stations where now everything's a robot controlled, so one person's controlling all the cameras, programming it.
Yeah, ABC's like that. I know NBC's like that. So Telemundo, obviously, because they're one. So I know both of those are like that. I don't know about the local Fox station, but
what's the station over by AAC? It's right in the plaza. Is it Channel 8? Whatever.
I think I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. I know. I'm pretty sure they're also robotic. Like I said, I know.
Yeah, my friend Brenna, she like runs the whole thing. She'll be queuing cameras and then go grab like a Ronin M or something and get all those shots. It's pretty incredible.
And I mean, the only thing for that is like the reason you need a person is because the people will not always hit their mark. The cameras will always, the robots will always hit their mark.
Yeah.
You just gotta go adjust it for the anchor who doesn't know where the hell he's supposed to stand at that right time.
That's right. Yeah, you know, I guess I'm biased. I don't watch that much unless I'm working, but so I really haven't watched a lot of the newscasts. But it is nice to see that perfect repetition. Having a long history with pedestals and in camera or in studio camera work, like I would prefer that, obviously. Also, running the jib in the studio, their grid is like 6 feet, 7 feet off the ground, and I'm running like a 20-foot jib. So I got really good at like dipping under lights for movements and through the lights, all sorts of wild stuff, and then hitting lights every once in a while.
Oh no!
Jumping up on a one-man lift and fixing it, you know.
So
but yeah,
have you kept in touch with them, or at least you say you're still employed by them?
Yeah.
Through the pandemic and stuff like that, how's that been? Because I know a lot of the stations went to like anchors will be at home and stuff like that, not doing. Is there stuff still happening in the studio?
It's awesome you say that. There is stuff happening in studio. They would stagger. They would have like one anchor at home, meteorologist in the studio, meteorologist at home every once in a while, anchor in studio, and they tried a number of different things out. For the most part, I think everyone's back in studio now. Mm-hmm. But I just got off the phone with the production manager for the first time since I bet mid-pandemic or so. And it's interesting you said that because my dad is or was, I'm not necessarily sure where he stands with that, but I think he was still contractually with CBS to some extent because K-Love 98.7 is owned by CBS, or at least it was, and then historically they sold off their radio rights. It all gets kind of wonky in there, but during the pandemic they allowed him to produce his own shows every Saturday from home. So CBS contacts me like, hey, you're his son, come pick up this camera and some lighting and go rig something up. He built a studio for it, and so it was really nice. I have a really interesting position in all this that I'm so grateful for, and I often think about it and like try to soak it in while I can. So yeah, getting to go get paid to get equipment from CBS in the middle of a pandemic, go and set up a home studio, you know, and have my dad produce the show which was also very uplifting. In such a rough time, it was such nice content. It's some of the best stuff I've ever seen him produce. It was really incredible. But that phone call was about going and getting all that equipment back because it's time. So, yeah. So I have to go round up a bunch of equipment that I may or may not have made a lot of money with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
dude, technical
yeah,
difficulties.
we're just talking about it. You know, that's what we do. It's okay.
We're just talking about cameras, man, camera equipment, and you know. Obviously, stuff just comes up.
That's a nice little segue, man, because this is fun for me. Because you know, you do all this stuff. Like, I just try to remind myself, like, shoot more stuff. Keep shooting stuff. So this is incorporated in that. You know.
I started playing around with a drone. I bought a little cheap drone, like a Chinese DJI knockoff.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But it shoots really good footage, and I was trying it out, like just filming my house in different angles.
Yeah.
Just going out and shooting it. I went out to the park with Manuel and Tress, our friend Tress, and we just shot like downtown down the street, and the sun was setting, so you get this cool shot where the light from the sun is still shining through some of the clouds above the building.
Yeah.
It just looks cool.
That's awesome, man. I didn't buy the knockoff. I got the Mavic Mini, and I got a little crazy with it until I learned to like really respect drone operators, and I completely stepped away from it because now I would have it with me at all times, and you know, it's before I really understood the legality of it. I would just like add it in to my package or something, maybe for even whatever kind of shoots, and then immediately it quickly became obvious that I started following Sparky Sureshan, I think is his name, but he's a really awesome local drone pilot, and he posts a lot of really helpful things, and I was like, I turned him down from then on out. I was like, I'm not a drone pilot. I don't do that. You know, it's not legal. I'm not licensed. I'm not doing that anymore. But
I think with the Mavic Mini, you could do it like legally because it
Yeah.
has to be within a certain weight where you need like an actual license for it.
I think it gets into some gray zone though when I'm getting paid for the gig though. So like I think as long, I don't know, I might be wrong. I decided to not look into it too much. I also didn't want to fly it into people because I get a little crazy with it. If you've ever seen me run handheld camera and fall off stages and stuff, I get a little wild. So
I just found the controls to be a little weird. It's because one of them controls going up and one of them's like rotation.
yeah.
So it's like trying to figure out how to do it at the same time so you can make it go diagonally or something, make a cool move.
Was that parallax motions of some sort where you keep something center frame or such? But that's awesome. I imagine being a kid with that technology. Oh my gosh, I would have.
Yeah, man. Like now, so your kids growing up, they have literally a camera in their
Yeah,
pocket, a really
yeah.
good camera in their pocket. Shit, when we were growing up, what the fuck did we have?
Oh man, you know I don't even know if I would have taken advantage of it as much as I should have as a kid. It took
Yeah.
me a long time to like kind of get out of my own way and just believe in what you're shooting and just do stuff. Just shoot, go out. I was just talking to my production manager earlier of one of many, but from CBS, like, man, I think every job I got, I wasn't necessarily qualified for at first. And going into it with that mindset, also, there's like only so far you can take faking it until you make it kind of thing. But
I mean, I've taken jobs like that where I was like, they're like, do you know how to shoot day for night? I'm like, yes.
yeah,
And like, I only vaguely knew that you could do it in camera. So like 5 minutes before the shoot started, I'm like Googling it.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I found
Oh,
the settings.
no.
And
That's
so
interesting.
then I went ahead, shot it. Everything turned out really good. But I just vaguely knew that you could do it in camera. So I was like, hopefully I can.
I'd have to learn more about that. Do you mean like changing the white balance? Just
Yeah, so all of this shooting day for night is make sure you don't get the sky, and you'll set it for tungsten.
Okay.
So just set it for tungsten. Everything has like a bluish tint to it.
Okay. I'd like to see that. I mean, I don't know as much about drone tech, and I'm always learning about film in general. But day for night, you know, in general from interior standpoint, is the first thing that came to mind. Because it's only so recently that I really realized just how much film is faking it. It's incredible.
And doing day for night, you have to kind of make sure you cover up any. You don't want to show the sky.
Yeah.
So you have to cover up the windows if you're doing it indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that with Jorg, so he probably would like me to pronounce his name correctly. It's more like, I can't do it. It's Og, you know, or George if you don't want to try it all. George.
As one of our other guests calls him number 7 because you
No.
know so many Georges. He
Oh,
calls him
yeah?
George number 7. Yeah.
Milos was the one that like branded all the Georges with a number.
Did I? Shit.
Yeah.
I
That
drank a
was
lot
you.
since then. I don't remember.
He's got
Fuck.
like 4 names though legally, so you could just pick like Victor or Stam. No, that's Cruz, but
No, I'm just gonna just to piss him off. I'm gonna call him Jorge Hernandez.
Jorge.
That's
Okay.
I mean that's his birth
That's his
name. But I know he
name.
changed it just to piss him off. I'll be like Jorge Hernandez. Yeah.
Wait, whose birth name?
Oh
Jorge?
shit.
Jorge
Maybe
is Jorge
we should have said
Hernandez.
that. Oh no.
That's his birth name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut
Yeah,
up.
he's Jorge Hernandez.
I'm gonna have to call him. Are you
Oh,
kidding?
shit.
I think we were just teasing them on the podcast too. We're like, oh, he's a Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah, Wiener- yeah,
'Cause
Wiener
he said he
Schnitzel.
grew up in Germany.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
thought that was whatever. Anyways,
Shit. Well, Jorge is George. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
the timeline just changed. My whole backstory on this character arc. It's like a video game. You went back to the start menu, like freaking changed. I don't even know what to believe anymore. Where am I?
So I mean, you're saying you've done a whole bunch of different stuff with different, basically different aspects. You've done TV, film, you've done grip, you've done camera, you've done everything. Is there one thing, like, if you had to be locked down to do one thing for like a long while, let's say maybe the next like 5 years, what would you choose to do? Like, what would be your like favorite thing that you enjoy out of everything else?
That's a great question. That directing experience was incredible. I have such respect for these titles, though. It's even hard for myself to call myself a legitimate grip, even though I've been doing it for years. Because I just had met Richard Porter, who's a local union rep, and this guy, he's so good. And then at the end of the day, I heard him say, like, I want to grip on these bigger features and these, large budget shoots. And it was so bizarre to me, because to me, he's like a gaffer, or something, electrician, I don't know, or rigger, master, whatever you want to call it. I'm still learning all the names. But it was so humbling to hear him, like, still, I'm a grip. It's like, dang. So it like changes the scope on that stuff. But directing that was incredible. And the Silvercord music video, Fading Form, and it did well for the band. It seems like, I don't know if they had all their mothers and cousins watching it like 1,000 times a day. That's what it seemed like. But, in order for myself to answer that question correctly, I would have to continue to learn all aspects of film and shooting, because that's how things don't come easily to me like that. So I have to go at the ground floor. Like, that's why I really don't say no to any gigs. I'll still PA for the right people. And even the wrong people, man, because like shit shows of gigs, whatever, like all of that, I come away and I learn from it. And in the middle of something that could be more enjoyable, and there's easily fixable issues, and most gigs I go to, I'm meeting everyone for the first time, maybe via one contact, or maybe there's a DP there that I've worked with a lot. But oftentimes we're showing up to a room of people I've never met, and all sorts of different things can happen, and different qualifications, different skill sets. And some of the really rough ones, it's like you have that conscious moment of, you've agreed to doing this, you're going to do it, finish it, and make it better. And then oftentimes I find people that are like, I'm not going to work with them again, or I'm not going to do this, or that was rough. But I'll go right back into it, because it's like this personal vendetta to like watch something and people get better around you. Because people did that for me. Like I had a lot of people put their name on the line for me, and it's the only reason I was able to have any success, or continue to have any success. And just but directing would be incredible. It's just, I don't know how much longer and how much more experience I would need to feel comfortable saying that, because I've only done one really. But you get on a lot of these sets where maybe the director's having a hard time, and you can kind of pick up the slack on stuff like you should, I think. And I don't know. I think that's where my future will be ultimately. But I love picking up sandbags and C-stands, man. It's gonna be hard for me to tell someone to do it and not do it myself.
But one thing that I feel like is going to help you a lot is, especially doing all these other things, and these other positions, other jobs on set, is because now you know what it takes to do that. So as a director, you know exactly what a grip's going to have to do. You know exactly what the camera guy's going to do, because you've been there. Yeah. So that makes their job easier, and yours, because you know exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes it easier to tell them what you want, and it makes communication so much easier, I feel, if you are aware of the other jobs on set.
Yeah, there's a certain headspace that I just would constantly try to achieve, that it stays fun. Everything like stays kind of new. But at the same time, I have a kind of a cutthroat attitude that the content needs to be met with that professionalism. And so, I don't know, I kind of have that duality between being super nice and then being super like, that's wrong. You did that wrong. The sandbag goes on this leg, okay? And the arm goes over that leg. What are you doing? I keep thinking about this like Scorsese Irishman picture on set. I constantly try to evaluate it and see if I'm looking at it incorrectly. But the leg is wrong, where the like silk is hanging over is wrong, the sandbag's wrong, and Scorsese's like standing right next to it. and potentially if the weight wasn't distributed correctly, it could fall towards him and Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. And it's like, I coming up from where I'm coming from, it's like, oh, everything has to be perfect, and everyone else is perfect, and you have to be perfect. And then you see something like that, and you're like, oh my God, what? How is that possible? So I hope I'm wrong. I keep looking at this picture and I'm like, is the image flipped? That wouldn't do it. If the image flipped, it's still bad. It's still wrong, So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just having so much fun, and then with people telling me to like pick one thing, because it's not good to stay too loose, I have to like kind of focus my attention somewhere, and it's been G&E for the past couple of years, because I've just gained so much respect for it. At first, it was like, it just seems like labor, but it's not, because then you can, you're executing just incredible lighting schemes, and it really goes back to Jorg, or whatever the heck you called him. I don't know, the man of many names.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one thing that's hard to find is people who are like focused on one aspect of the like filmmaking, because a lot of people there are kind of like all over the place, want to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and there's like no mastery in whatever they choose.
Yeah. Oh, no,
that's
totally.
definitely one of my problems as well, because I love trying out, doing different things. I've done a lot of audio on sets. I've done a lot of, I don't know, well, mostly audio, because nobody else wants to do it. They're like, you have some equipment, go ahead and do it. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, one thing I haven't gotten into myself yet is directing like an actual bigger production, which is what I would love to get into eventually too as well.
Dude, you're so
Just to
good
try
at
it.
talking, man. I think that'd be wonderful. Like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but it's, it's still got to find our project as well. That's another thing where it's like you just got to find something. I've always been a shit writer, so I'm not going to direct anything I write, because my writing is garbage. I'm waiting on him to write some good for me so I can do it. Yeah.
Okay. It's so interesting having this timing play out with me listening to Quentin Tarantino on Rogan. Mm-hmm. It's so wild to hear his story of like working in a movie, I guess, rental house. He writes, I don't remember what the first script was, but he sold it for I think like $30K.
Yeah,
First off, like
True Romance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a whole part there that I'd love to understand how you sold that. And then he took that money, and I think he said he was going to make Reservoir Dogs with that. And he had a buddy like go, hold on, like let me go shop around for a few months and see if we can get you some financing. And sure enough, like the first person, I'm just reiterating exactly what I just heard, but someone came at him with like $300K. That fell apart, and then someone came out with like $1.5 million or something. I don't necessarily know where that ended out, but it was just this like progress of this number increasing, and now we have like a modern day. We're watching one of the best directors, if you're a fan of his, but
Definitely.
you have to respect that there's not a lot of guys that get away with what he gets away with, and just so confidently. Like if you don't like it, you don't like it. He's not going to do anything for you.
I think for a long time, like Tarantino was always writing. He said he was like in high school and writing scripts.
Yeah.
And he was taking a bunch of acting classes and trying out for roles, where I guess he started developing a network. So there's like people who know people, and eventually like something hits and you just meet the right people at the right time that helps them out. But he did True Romance, and I think there's two scripts that he wrote, because one was directed by Oliver Stone, Natural Born Killers.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know he wrote that. That makes perfect sense. I didn't go to film school, so this has all been just new to me, which keeps it so fresh. I think if I had gone to film school, I wouldn't be doing it, man.
See, I feel like if I would have gone through school at another time, it would have been perfect for me. I mean, the TCC stuff was great. I learned a bunch of stuff there for video production, all that. But then I decided to go back through UTA, and I just graduated like a couple months ago. The only problem is, like, since that was through the pandemic, I don't think I learned shit. I'll be honest with you, 100%. I don't think I learned shit. Since we couldn't be in the TV studio, I couldn't learn really much about that aspect of it. So it was basically news production. I did that because it was the closest thing to me. I just wanted to have a degree so I can look for jobs that pay more in whatever field comes up.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm actually looking for some finance stuff and other warehouse stuff, just like at the moment, just to get money so I can fund future film projects, obviously.
Yeah, I love
my addiction.
We're both coming at it from different directions, and I think a lot of what you're doing will put you ahead of me in a lot of ways. Like, 'cause
Yeah, but shit, dude, I'm a year younger than you, and I haven't done shit. You're a year older than me, and you've done a whole bunch of stuff.
This is shit.
So I
man.
feel like
This
it's
is
the
cool.
other way around. Personally.
Oh man,
Yeah.
this is the hardest thing ever to do is put your face on something, and really try to represent yourself. This is shit, and in the right term of the word, like good. It's like good shit, whatever. So I wouldn't. It's best not to get in your own head about it, but I'll pay you the compliment, man. Like doing this, it's awesome.
This is like you're actually the first guest on like this new setup we have, like the lights in the background. This is like you're the first person to see it outside of this group.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Because we just decided, since we really wanted these new lights with Amazon's recent sale and stuff, we ended up getting some lights. We ended up getting a couple other things. One of our friends, he had a podcast on the other side of the room, or was going to start one, and that fell through. So we got his decorations, the plants, and the TV.
Yeah, just so y'all know, there's a 8x silk there with a S60 and some. There's a Joker back there, hitting this light, and you got some sky panels and such. I'm just kidding.
It's all super cheap garbage, but it works, man.
But
Yeah,
It
no,
works.
I'm all for getting it done.
Man,
And
we needed lights anyways because I have like a Toda. We had a Toda above the table, and that Toda, it heats up.
yeah,
Yeah, with no AC beforehand, the Toda, plus also like the framing, it was almost always being framed, so we had to like mess with the framing and everything. We also got a new wider lens, which is great, because I would almost always on the wide, I would almost always be out of frame, which would suck in editing. This last one, the last one we shot, I actually had to do a completely different thing with the edit, where basically I just kind of like, did a 4-split thing where, it's just like everybody's on the screen at the same time, because I just couldn't use the wide, and it wouldn't really make sense just to cut from left to right over and
Yeah.
over again.
yeah.
So now I think we can finally avoid all that with this, and with a new wider lens, I feel like I can finally be in frame. Thank you, thank you, thank you, the gods of George's wallet. who
That's
paid
right.
for it.
Yes, that's awesome, man. I think it's a pretty awesome setup.
Hey man, it works. It gets the job done. I'm always for doing stuff on the budget, doing stuff on the low, making it look great with a minimal amount of money spent.
Yeah, man.
That's where I'm at, because I'm in the indie stuff. You're more in the pro stuff, with the unions and everything. You kind of have to have certain things, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not union, but
Oh, you're not? Not yet?
No.
My bad,
But-
sorry.
No.
I thought you were. I apologize.
The crazy thing is though, like looking at call sheets, I think I'm closer than I thought I was if I were want to be. But a lot of the people I work for are like one-man band DPs that own all this equipment, and I go in and grip gaff their stuff, and then second camera. That's been the best part about it, is having the camera background, being able to help out on that end. And like I said, I didn't really start taking that seriously until like 26 or so, because I'd been shooting for a long time, but I didn't really know how to go into the camera settings, especially in broadcast, where TOC, which I forgot what that stands for, but they shade the cameras and match the cameras and take care of all the camera settings. You just keep things in frame, find good composition, and keep it in focus.
Yeah.
Do some zooming in and zooming out, dollying, whatever, tracking. But so that it kind of it taught me like a lot about camera in one way, but nothing about camera in the other. And so one time there was like a conscious choice, like, Jesus, like learn actually what you're doing. And so luckily YouTube is is free, and I still watch a lot. I don't really watch TV. All I watch, like when I sit down to eat, is like more educational film stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I watch movies, but man, ever since Game of Thrones, like I don't want to get committed to anything anymore. Like, especially if I don't know when it's gonna end. Game of Thrones was good. I could have watched it on mute and it looked good. Like that was good for me. So I don't know, but people often recommend me TV shows. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, okay, yeah, I'll check that out. Like, no, I don't know about that.
So it sounds like you've shot on a whole bunch of different stuff, different cameras, stuff like that. How easy is it to apply knowledge from like one camera onto another onto the next? Is it pretty straightforward on most things that you've worked on so far?
Yeah.
Or is it relearning everything from ground up, from your experience?
It depends on if it's like a cinema camera that requires like first AC and such. That's still fairly new ground for me, but I understand and like I'm pretty more comfortable than I've ever been. But like if it's an FS7, C200, 300, or I'm really comfortable with those. FX9, whatever. I personally own a Blackmagic 6K because I was waiting for the A7S III and it just was not coming out. And so then the 6K came out and I decided to go that way. And then the pandemic hit. And like, it's so funny. Everyone's scrounging for gigs and people see that camera, the Blackmagic 6K. They're like, hey, can you come take some stills for us? And, I can't say no because they're going to pay me. I'm like, but this is the worst camera to use for photography. It's a joke. Like, it has a little photography stills button. It's hilarious. It doesn't work most of the time. And you can't review your stills after the fact. It's rough. But so what I would do is, it's so terrible to admit, but I would just roll on the least compression possible, highest resolution, and take stills from it. And that's not passable, but I did pass it. So I don't do that anymore.
Whenever you were saying that, that's what I was thinking. It's like, why not just roll it like on RAW?
Yeah, it did. And it's just, I hopefully will never have to do that again in that way.
But the footage should be pretty good. I heard people use that to make like posters for the short films and stuff because it's like 21 megapixels if you take just a frame of footage.
Yeah, I'm
If
kind
you
of
shoot it on like 6K.
Yeah, I definitely did it, and it could have been better, and it should be better, but I got it to pass, and learning a little bit about DaVinci and coloring. But I'll tell you, if you take a full screen of any of those shots right now, I would have to set these headphones down and walk away, because they should be a lot better. Same thing I said about drone pilots. Like, I have so much respect for actual photographers that I was taking their gigs. Yeah, so it's knowing your limits. Having bought that camera, I want a camera that I want a photography camera as well, and practice those skills, because why not?
See, whenever I was like starting to learn how to use cameras and stuff, we went through the basics of like using camcorders or like cinema cameras, but doing photography was actually what really helped. So I just started taking a photography class, and I think I did it as substitution for like a different class at TCC. So for my degree, I substituted photography for some other class, and that honestly helped a lot.
Yeah, man, you really learn camera settings in that way, especially like shutter, and composition. It's just there's so many videographers out there that like have just made it by, but if you need to get intricate with it, they're not there for it, or even adjusting camera settings. I will never drop any names, but it's like you see stuff out there of people who've been doing it their whole lives and making a great living that got away with not really having to learn. And that's my greatest nightmare, is that 20 years go by and I didn't really get any better. I just convinced people to keep paying me or something, So that's concerning. But yeah, so I think photographers, if they wanted to transfer over to film, I would only imagine it could only help, but it's to each his own personality whether or not they're really accessible to being told, like, hey, don't do it like that,
I mean, and it helps with with photographers as well. One thing that's kind of that reminds me of is like doing weddings and stuff like that. God, I don't want to do those. Well, I would shoot one, but I would not edit one again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always important, like, with stuff like that. Have you done any of those weddings?
No, I've managed to kind of avoid it.
No.
But
yeah, with photographers, man, like, just it's best to get with them just to get out their way, because they're gonna people, even with stuff like that, even for weddings, people are gonna charge photos way more than videos, like, no matter what.
Yeah.
Even though your wedding video is gonna be expensive and shit, people are still gonna go back and look at the pictures way more than they do the video. So if you ever do get into weddings, like, that's one thing I learned is, like, stay out of their way, or talk with them and be like, look, I'm gonna be here, compromise. But yeah,
it's probably gonna happen, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it, because I know some wedding videographers out there that are better shooters than me, even in the commercial world. There's just one guy that comes to mind, like Justin Red, I think is his name, but it's like Red Productions. But I don't want to confuse that with the actual Red Productions of Fort Worth. I can't remember what his company's called, but he specializes in wedding videography, and he also shoots like super high-end commercial work, and it's just incredible to see. And man, speaking of like going out of your comfort zone to like coffee meet and greets and stuff, I was invited out to, this is not related, but Red Productions in Fort Worth, to go tour their studios. And by the end of the day, we all go out and have some drinks and eat. And it turns out they're all like wedding videographers. They paid for everything. They make a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it was just nothing. Like, I'm over there, like, no, I'm good. I don't need anything else. And then they ordered more food and rounds. I'm like, okay, sure. So I got to see clearly that the good ones make a lot of money.
I mean, hey, if you're doing smaller weddings too, one thing that that's been fun for me, and I'm also a connoisseur of alcohol like you, like yourself. Doing weddings of anybody who has an open bar is great.
See, that's why I want to stay away from it.
Because they're like, yeah. I remember there was this one wedding. It was I forgot where the people were from. I think I don't remember exactly. It was one of our friends, Tressford, got us. They had this big, huge wedding. It was great. And then after they had an after party, and they're like, all right, shoot some scenes, shoot this. You're our guests. If you want to drink, drink. All right. IS on, stabilization to camera on, monopod on, drink in hand. Let's go. Film the dancing, film the everything.
Shoot,
it
dude.
turned out amazing. Still turned out great, but I also had a good time, which was very important.
See, I don't know about that. Like, my start in AV was at Billy Bob's Texas, and man, I owe it to Bear Crosno, who was the production manager at the time. He's a second father, third father, whatever. I have a lot of father figures, I guess. You know, he hired me. I had no experience. I was a lifeguard before that. So come on. And it's like just a little bit more backstory. Like, I was a stagehand, and nobody really wanted to run camera there. So it just kind of became my thing. I was like, yeah, I'll run camera during the shows. It keeps me busy. And anytime the camera was faulty and I'd try to fix it, they had like one guy that was allowed to fix it. And no one really knew how to fix it. Old camera. It was the funniest thing. They had like a 20, 30-year-old camera of some sort. And the buttons are like falling into the camera. And then they're bringing in like brand new HD flat screen TVs to have this camera project to. And I kept saying, I was like, come on, get a new camera.
No.
You got new TVs, get a new camera. But, you know, that just to relate to the wedding stuff, working with a bar, like, you get away with whatever you want. As long as you're doing your job, you can drink, smoke, do whatever you want. And I ended up being a DJ there. And why anyone would have ever let me be a DJ when I'm such a metalhead, so I'm like sneaking in Pantera and Metallica whenever I can. Like 20 years old, 21. Yeah, I got hired at 18. And people would walk up to me and request songs. And I'm like, Waylon Jennings? Like, how do you spell George Strait? I'm sorry, who is that? And the look in their eyes, like, who's this kid that's the DJ that doesn't know anything? But I had to get out of that, man. Like, I can distinctly remember that some people didn't really have the necessity to move on. All power to them. But I was like, holy crap, this is bad. I'm starting some really bad habits. I'm probably drinking too much because it's like accepted socially. And then that move helped me go over to CBS 11. And then that same thing happened years later, where I saw kind of a plateau of what's required in news when it comes to shooting. And then I was like, oh my God, how do I get out of this? And my buddy who worked at Alfred Media Services, just to give you my backstory, I guess, he said, like, what are you doing? And he said, are they teaching anything? Are you learning, like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, I just kind of work whatever for this rate, barely making it. And he offered a position over at Alfred Media Services. This is my favorite little story about excelling or getting better. They bring me in for an interview. I'm like, cool, you've been running camera at CBS for 4 or 5 years. What cameras do you use? And I'm like,
oh no.
There's a Sony. They're Sonys. Yeah, they're Sonys. And they're like, look at each other and like, okay, well, you've run a little audio there too. What audio board do you use? I'm like, oh, shoot, man, it's got like buttons and, there's buttons over here. And it was rough. And so I didn't know if I had that job. 2 weeks go by of them just not talking to me. But as soon as I got back to CBS, I went around to all the equipment and like wrote down the gear and started that process of like never again, like remember, I think it was like HTC 1400 or 700 were the studio cameras. And I was trying to remember the E&G cameras earlier, and I can't quite remember. But so 2 weeks later, they got me the job, and they decided to hire me as an audio engineer instead of video because they thought it was easier to bring me on at something I know nothing about and teach me up rather than retrain me something I pretended like I knew. But that helped open up a world to like see another tier of operators and techs that were like super awesome rates, super big clients. Ultimately, I ended up leaving that job 2 years later to pursue freelancing, and then went broke like twice over the course of the next few years because I just expected freelancing to happen. Like, I'm a freelancer. Yeah. And so then that's right around where like 25, 26 is for me in years that I like actively changed how I pursue people, be a little annoying is the way I like to call it, which led, it's worked, man. Like you just kind of flip a switch and be honest with people about where you're at, and maybe not always so honest, like, hey man, I'm not very good at this, not very good at that. It's more of like, hey, I'm willing, I've looked into this, looked into that kind of thing. But yeah, I forgot exactly what the hell you asked me to make me say all that.
No, but what you just said like reminded me of a story I was reading. There's a guy who had the idea of just getting two girls to promote themselves as DJs. So because he was like, oh, we're using two attractive girls, we could sell it, start booking clubs, and just make some money off this. And so they would have a playlist already made. So it was all original content, right, that they were playing. They go to a club, and it's the two girls just pretending to DJ.
Yeah.
And they started getting booked for a bunch of places. And eventually, like, the girl got really interested, and she started using it as her thesis for some college class.
That's incredible. Oh, that's the best version of faking it till you make it, because there is a reality there. Like, man, I'm all for it. If you can get paid and you got people kind of under the illusion, you have power there, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You just have, like what she did, used it in the best way possible.
And she used it for her thesis just to talk about that experience. But once she got to a certain level, she started like trying to learn herself. And eventually she was actually DJing, but she was still like writing this thesis as if she was like an amateur at it. But at this point, she was already kind of professional.
Yeah.
And she was putting out real stuff that she was making herself.
Dude,
but she got to the level where she was getting paid like 10 grand for a concert.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a podcast I'd listen to. I'd listen to every word she said, because that's like, she could have easily let the stress of, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm doing, like take her over and cripple her. Because I see really talented people like fall inwards often. And that's a real struggle. It's not even the technical prowess or finances that are the hardest part. It's like believing in yourself, and continuing that joy, because tech is becoming so much more easily accessible. Anyone should pursue it. Anyone who's even slightly interested, like, yeah, grab your phone, go shoot stuff. And yeah.
It's like always go shoot stuff and like learn as much as you can, but also there's people who like sometimes learn too much and then they're like paralyzed whenever they're like, oh no, you have to do it this way, and no one doing the other way. I'm like, just think of creative ways to shoot it this certain way and don't be too stuck on like how it should be.
Absolutely, man. If my ego is involved with how long I've been doing it, then I would feel bad, because there's kids out there that do incredible work with cell phones and editing, where they encompass like an emotion or something. No matter how much the runtime is, like, I understood what you did there. And even with TikTok, whatever, 9x16 shooting, I don't care. Like, if I kept watching, then you got me.
Hey, did you watch the new Bo Burnham special?
I was about to, and I haven't, man. He's another level. That's the perfect example of someone who's like kind of unaffected. I shouldn't really comment since I haven't seen it.
It's like a one-man production on his like latest special. It's on Netflix, and he shot it all in one room with just lights, a projector, and his camera.
Yeah. There's a whole behind the scenes that I want to watch too, but I have to actually watch his performance first too. He's scary talented. That's the guy, like, man, you watch someone like that and you're like, holy crap, how do you how do you stay in that mindset? Like listening to Quentin Tarantino, he his 10 movie thing.
Yeah.
So he says, 10 movies and I'm out, and then he's just gonna write. That's it. And Rogan's like trying to pull his leg. I'm like, come on, man. Like, 10 movies, really, But Quentin's like convinced. He's like, I've seen everyone else peter out eventually. Like, I'm going out on top. So he has no time limit on when this 10th movie will come out. I personally really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but yeah, that's just really interesting. Life's really short, and you say that, but like this is the only thing I've ever known. I don't even know what that saying means. Life's really short. Like to me, it's been really long. You haven't worked a 20-hour day before. It can be brutally long, but yeah. So that's since we've already mentioned that I'll be directing another music video. All these things flow through my head, and I have to like just stop and put pen to paper and like come up with an idea, commit to it, shoot it, move on.
Is it the same band?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And so that's the best part about this job is there should be another job and another job and another job. And freelancing is so benefiting to me because like full-time staff guys, you have to have a reason to fire them. But a freelancer, you just don't call me anymore, So if you call me again, it just means so much. It means that I'm actually not that bad. I'm good at certain things and getting better. And then when they refer you to someone else, it's just like this kind of affirmation. And yeah, so I don't know. Bo Burnham is someone else. I have to go watch that for sure.
Yeah, that's a really interesting special. It was really good. He incorporates a lot of comedy with like musical comedy.
Yeah.
Which I guess that's his whole career, right? He was doing
Yeah.
musical comedy instead of stand up.
Yeah, and some people like it's not as impressive over time. I just keep thinking about that Animal House scene where what's his face busts that guitar, like stop playing the guitar. I can't remember the name. Belushi? Yeah.
Belushi.
Yeah.
John Belushi.
Yeah, I always think about that when I'm thinking about like musical entertainers because it can quickly become annoying. But with someone like Bo Burnham, he's like the top level in my opinion. It's frustrating how good
I think
he is.
they touched on that on the Rogan podcast too. They're like,
yeah,
there's stand-up comedians that they would use the guitar as kind of like a what they call it?
Like a transitional thing or something?
No, it's like
a crutch.
Misty Shore was like, you gotta get rid of the guitar, just do stand up, and like some of them they couldn't do it because the guitar was a crutch. Yeah.
Which like I'm impartial to both because I would love to have seen those acts as well because I've been playing music my whole life and I think it's incredible what some people can do with that. But I also love holding people's feet to the fire, like, hey, just be funny. So in that setting at the Comedy Store, you must have finished that podcast already.
Yeah,
dude, I'm like
listened to
halfway
the whole
through.
thing.
You be careful
Yeah.
because I'm
No
invested.
spoilers, George. No spoilers.
Shoot, man.
I
listened to
even started listening to like another one. He's on Mark Maron's podcast. Quentin.
That's awesome. So he's making his rounds.
Yeah,
That's
he's really trying to sell the book.
Oh, this book. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that. I bet at the end of it, it's like, and here's my book.
Yeah, it's the Once Upon a
That's
Time in
nice.
Hollywood book.
Oh, okay.
So he novelized it, but apparently the novel's a little different than the movie.
Okay.
It's a lot more detail.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm just taken away by, it's so wild to hear someone so successful just lay it out like that, especially the criticism towards Bruce Lee, where he's like, well, if you are Bruce Lee's daughter, then I'm sorry I upset you. If you're anyone else, like, eat a bag of, like, I love it. I love the just, he's a creator. He's you don't have to go see his movies or enjoy it or agree with it, but it obviously did well. And come on, Brad Pitt laying him out, like, that's fun. That's fun. Let it be. Maybe it might never happen. Who knows? But I
think
it.
in the movie they tie anyways. It's like they're playing who knocks each other down 3 times, and they end up tying.
Yeah, Quentin's like breakdown of that, like, well, this guy served in war and stuff, and there's no way Bruce Lee's gonna be able to. He didn't talk like that at all. But and then of course, man, Rogan's like, do you know anything about fighting? He just was like, Quentin, do you have any training? Have you ever fought? But then he quickly says, okay, Bruce Lee's a tiny little guy, so maybe. But it's really upsetting. I imagine it's like a religion when it comes to a guy like Bruce Lee. People do not like you messing with their heroes. And I don't know. I think Bruce is incredible. But I was my last VHS broke because of how many times I watched The Crow.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was permanently stuck in there. And I was like, well, okay, I guess that's it. All right.
You
I don't know if I've seen it since.
Damn,
but-
that kind of reminds me. Oh, hey, we got a friend. Look at this. I don't know if y'all can see it. We got one of those fucking annoying ass caterpillars on the microphone. It's okay.
If it was a spider, I would have flipped the table.
Nah,
and
it's a
ran out.
caterpillar. It's okay.
Nah, not best.
I wish we could. That's fine. That doesn't matter. But yeah, so that kind of reminds me of something else. But speaking of VHSs, by the way, kind of funny, random off thing. My first VHS was actually The Princess Bride. I got that actually when we moved here in 2003. We lived in his apartments, and you know, when you move from another country, we really didn't have anything. We didn't have much. So my dad would drive by, and he'd see like people throwing stuff out, whatever. He'll take it. He found this VHS player, and inside it stuck was a copy of
No
Princess
way.
Bride.
Oh, I
And
thought
he
you
had-
were about to say it was mine, like The Crow. Oh my
No,
gosh.
I'm
It's
sorry.
like the,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I get so
No,
excited.
Princess Bride, yeah. And then so he got it eventually, so he got it out. We eventually got it.
All right, Forrest. Since we got to wrap up, would you tell us one of your most interesting experiences, like having to work in film,
Okay.
or one of your favorite experiences?
Well, so I love shooting interviews, man. I love being a part of interviews, and you know, I've been a part of filming cancer survivors, you know, survivors of sex trafficking, things like that, where you go into the gig and you've had whatever kind of day you've had, and whatever you think you're going to have, and then you hear someone's story, and your life has changed forever, and you put that camera in their face, and you put that light on their face, and you told them to sit like this and don't turn your shoulders that way and turn and look this way and don't look there and don't do this and then act natural. That's like the funniest thing. That's always my breaking of the ice. Is like I go into your home, move your furniture around, and I put all this stuff up in your face and tell everyone to be quiet, turn off your AC, turn off your refrigerator, and then you're like, and then be natural. And then some people react differently to that, but then they'll have these just intimate stories where you're just like, oh my gosh, you're so privileged to be sitting in the same room, and then you just hope to God that the editor doesn't screw it up. But it's just how an editor's job is having to choose what to show. But yeah, it's too hard. That survivor of sex trafficking is probably one of the most memorable, just because I had no idea, you know, how bad it can really be for some people out there. Absolute hell. And so yeah, those are the most memorable. I've only been doing film for like 2 years now, so nothing really quite compares to that. And that's why I think I'll constantly try to find the right way to do interviews like that, because it's very superficial, it's very unnatural. It's so hard to be real when you're putting cameras in people's faces and like try to capture real life. And I've always had a philosophy that as soon as you put a camera in someone's face, nobody acts right. Like an actor's job is like to try to, and but those moments where people have experienced life so much that a camera doesn't scare them, you know, those are the moments that I'll do that for the rest of my life if I can perfect that craft.
Do you think you'd ever go into documentary filmmaking?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Totally, absolutely. I've already started shooting a documentary, and for Dallas Music Network, and I've already shot a handful of interviews, and I've been editing it myself, and it's really interesting. It's surrounding the Dallas Metroplex and musician struggles, and I don't think there's anyone out there doing a harder job than trying to be a professional musician. It's good luck. But getting to meet these kiddos and everyone from I can't remember his name, but Justin Timberlake's keyboardist and Beyonce's keyboardist, like I got to shoot him, and then like a kid from Booker T. Washington that just plays drums in the same day, and piecing that kind of stuff together. So yeah, I'm definitely getting into the documentary stuff. That would be my debut for a documentary, and hopefully it's okay. I have tons of respect. I'm watching The Last Dance right now just to try to see what's the best right now.
That's one that's still on my list. I have watched it.
Yeah, so that doesn't count as a TV show for me. I'll watch documentaries, dagnabbit. I just finished Planet Earth 2 again. I don't know how they got those shots. and sequences. And
I
how?
know, man.
I
That
don't-
stuff is ridiculously insane. It's amazing. And plus, like, I mean, that was a couple years ago. I mean, when like 4K cameras weren't exactly that small.
Oh.
So it's like, seriously, how?
It doesn't make
What
any
kind of
sense.
glass do they have? I mean, I guess it must be those like super long photography lenses they're using, I'm assuming.
Dude, but then there's some sequences where they have to have had people set up for like a few hundred yards of some sort, like specifically that giraffe being
I know they said
attacked.
it's like really tough to shoot those because they spent like 12 weeks out in the ocean just to try and get a shark to jump out the ocean.
Dude,
the
that's
water.
love, man. Whenever you miss something by a month or two or something and you're committed to living on location or something, and imagine like, oops, it was out of focus, or oops, I bumped my camera. Like,
Oh my
oops.
god. That once in a lifetime shot and you fuck it. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, utmost
All
respect
right,
for those guys.
Forrest, where can people find you?
My Instagram's really, it's wild. I get most of my business from it. It's kind of gnarly, but it's for EST_Dean. And I'm working on a website and a reel. So
We'll put up the links, and whenever you finish the website, just send it to us.
awesome. That'd be great. Thanks for having me.
You know, we're doing some really good nature stuff here recently. Last time we had Tim at Meadows. Today we have Forrest Dean,
Okay.
you know. So next time we got to find somebody else with, like, you know, the grassy or naturey type name as well. You know, we
That's
got to
right.
change the
I
podcast
don't know, I
after
think
that.
who we have next is Katriva.
Yeah, well, shit, we need to ask her to change her last name or something. Some naturey type stuff. Anyway, Forrest, man, thank you so much for being on, bro. Like,
Yes.
your experiences are beyond basically what any of us even knew.
Nah.
And so you just talking about it, I think it's really gonna. It inspired the hell out of me, honestly, to
Oh, that's
keep
awesome,
going
man.
again and doing a bunch of shit, which is really nice. And I feel like it's gonna inspire a bunch of listeners and stuff like that. But anyways, man, my name is Miloš Mukarica. This has been George Martinez. That has been Forrest Dean. You can find him again, like I said, Forrest Dean. Was there an underscore or something in there? No.
Yeah, you'll find it just by it's the number 4 EST_Dean.
Yep. Cool.
So-
All right. And yeah, this time we actually had Manuel behind the camera. Thank you so much, Manuel. Appreciate you, buddy. You're the best. Anyways, guys, you will hear us next time. Also, let us know how you like the new set, and we are out.
We'll
Bye-bye.
see if the editor gets it out on Monday.
That's me. Fuck y'all.